Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for your support, and today we are going to learn about the basic commands in Docker. We would have used these commands in multiple Docker tutorials, however this tutorial is for Docker beginners and will help them to know these commands which are very frequently used in Docker. If you have not subscribed to my channel, kindly do so. The best place for learning Docker commands is to check the documentation from Docker in docs.docker.com. If you don't know how to set up Docker, kindly check my tutorial on how to set up Docker on CentOS. The first command is Docker version, which will show the Docker version information. You will get both Docker client and Docker server details. If you use the command docker-v, it will only list very minimal details. If you run the command docker alone, it will list down all the commands, which is a very good place to know what you are looking. You will be able to see both the Docker management commands and also normal commands. The next important command used in Docker is docker pull. This is used to pull an image or a repository from a registry. If you are not sure about the image names, you can go to hub.docker.com and check the details. Now we have an image pulled from Docker Hub. To check the images available in Docker, use the command docker images. This will list down all the images available in your Docker environment. We can see the list of images available in your Docker host. If we need to delete any Docker images, use the command docker rmi and the image name. You can also replace docker rmi with docker image rm image name. Another useful command is docker info. This displays system-wide information of Docker. You can go through it and will be able to see the status of containers, images, operating system on which Docker is running, etc. One of the main Docker command we use is docker run. We frequently use this with options to start containers. Let's see some of the common one like publish, detach, interactive, etc. Let's pull a nginx image and create a Docker container with docker run. If you run the docker run with image ID, it start the container. However, if we don't map the host port to Docker port, we will not be able to access the application. In order to access the application through web browser, we need to map the host port 80 or any other free port with Docker port 80. We will use the option publish or -p with docker run for this. order to see the container running, we can use docker container ls or docker ps command. Both these commands will list all the active running containers. In order to see the stopped and all containers, you need to use docker container ls-a or docker ps-a. For starting a container in detached mode, or run container in background and print container ID, use the command -d along with docker run. We can use the commands docker container stop to stop a running container. We can use the command docker start for starting a stopped container, and also use the command restart for restarting a container. This command is very useful one. You can use docker inspect with container name or ID for getting the full details of a container. You will be able to see the details like host name, exposed port, IP address of docker, working directory, etc. Go through the details, which will be very helpful for you. When you create a container using Docker run, usually Docker gives random name for the container. If you want to use a specific name, use the option ---- name with Docker run. For removing a Docker container, use the command docker container rm with container ID. To remove an running container, use the command docker container rm-f container ID. Docker volume command is used to manage volumes. You can list the Docker volume using the command docker volume ls. We can create and remove the volume using docker volume create and docker volume rm commands. Another command which is useful is docker exec, and it is used for running any command inside a running container. These are some of the basic Docker commands which is very useful, and for beginners let's start making use of this to get started with Docker. There are several more commands and we will see more about that later. Thank you for watching and we will see again with another interesting tutorial on Docker.